For centuries, this was the speed of human thought. The year is 1440. Europe is silent. Knowledge is a luxury, locked behind the high walls of monasteries and the heavy doors of royal libraries. To reproduce a single book takes a scribe 1 year of labor. A library of 50 volumes is considered a treasure greater than gold. But in the shadows of the Holy Roman Empire, a failed mirror maker and goldsmith is tinkering with a machine that will shatter this silence. He is about to turn the stream of information into a flood, and in doing so, he will accidentally ignite the greatest revolutions in human history. Mainz, Germany, the mid-15th century. Johann Gutenberg is a man desperate for money, hiding his work from investors who demand returns. But Gutenberg isn't inventing printing from scratch. We must be precise here. Centuries earlier, Chinese innovators like Bai Sheng had developed movable type using clay. By the 1200s, Korean artisans were printing with metal. But these inventions did not travel far, nor did they mechanize the process. Gutenberg's genius was not the idea, but the synthesis. He was the Henry Ford of the 15th century. He combines 3 distinct technologies. First, metallurgy. Using his goldsmithing skills, he creates a unique alloy, lead, tin, and antimony. It melts at low temperatures but cools hard enough to withstand thousands of impressions without deforming. Second, the ink. The water-based ink of the scribes would run off the metal type. Gutenberg creates an oil-based varnish, sticky, vibrant, and permanent. It clings to the metal like tar. And finally, the press. He adapts the screw mechanism of the Rhineland wine presses. Instead of crushing grapes, he crushes paper against ink. The result is the Gutenberg Bible, completed in 1455. Aesthetic perfection. But the beauty of the Bible wasn't the revolution. The volume was. For 60 years, the press spread slowly. But in 1517, the machine finds its fuel. Martin Luther, a disillusioned monk, drafts his 95 Theses, a critique of the church's corruption. In the Old World, this document would have stayed on the church door in Wittenberg, read by a handful of locals, and then rotted away. But printers, hungry for content, copy Luther's words. They translate them from Latin into German, the language of the people. Within 2 weeks, Luther's ideas have spread across Germany. Within a month, they are all over Europe. It is the world's first viral event. The church held a monopoly on truth because they held the monopoly on production. They controlled the scribes. They controlled the pulpit. The press bypassed the gatekeepers. Luther called printing God's highest and extremist act of grace. It turned a theological dispute into the Protestant Reformation, fracturing the power of the Catholic Church and plunging Europe into a war of ideas and iron. While the press tore religion apart, it was busy stitching science together. Before print, science faced a fatal flaw: data corruption. If a monk copied a star chart or an anatomical drawing, he inevitably made mistakes. A scribe might copy a heart with 3 chambers instead of 4. The next scribe copies the error. Knowledge degrades over time. The press solved the problem of drift. When Nicholas Copernicus publishes De Revolutionibus in 1543, every single copy is identical. A chaotic spread of copies is replaced by standardized data. This allowed for something entirely new: peer review. An astronomer in Prague could check the math of an astronomer in Pisa because they were looking at the exact same numbers. Tycho Brahe, Kepler, Galileo, they were not working in isolation. They were having a conversation across the continent, fueled by the rapid exchange of identical data. Without the printing press, the scientific revolution is impossible. Science requires the accumulation of facts. The press provided the shelf upon which those facts could be stacked, one after another, reaching toward the stars. But perhaps the deepest change was not in the stars, but in the wallet. In the 1400s, a manuscript cost the equivalent of a farm. By the 1500s, a printed book cost the equivalent of a loaf of bread. Knowledge was transformed from a luxury good into a commodity. As books flooded the market, literacy rates began their slow, upward climb. The ability to read was no longer the exclusive domain of the clergy. It became a necessity for the merchant, the tradesman, and eventually, the citizen. This created a new force in the world: public opinion. Rulers could no longer ignore the thoughts of their subjects, because their subjects were now informed. Johann Gutenberg died in 1468, largely unheralded and financially ruined. He was buried in a church that was later destroyed. His grave is lost to time, but his monument is everywhere around us. The Reformation, the Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution, they all flowed from that first mixture of lead, tin, and oil. We live in the world that Gutenberg printed,